I have to do like Zach. Hmm. Hmm.
Isabelle is coming up with a fun,
Zach.
adult-themed name for me.
Zach. What about Zach Benz? Or that's not. Zach. Zach. Zach Plows. There we go. There you
Okay,
go. That was the
so
best I could think of on short notice.
we're talking about X today, filmed by Ty West. Is this 2022?
One, I think. I might be wrong.
2022.
I
You
thought it
are
was 20.
so wrong. Oh my
Okay,
God.
well, this is
No,
not
that's
my
fine.
area
I
of expertise.
I had no idea. So I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, I really didn't like this movie
No, me
much. But
neither. My partner also hated it, so
let's treat the movie with some dignity, I guess. Uh
I mean, I'll say as far as the project here of rappers and horror, Kid Cudi's kind of the best part. Well, him and
yeah,
Mia Goth, in my opinion, are the best part. He really chews it up.
yeah, welcome back to video 2 of 33 in the Rappers in Horror Movies series. Um, this is how not cool I am. For like years, I didn't know it was Kid Cudi. I thought his name was Kid Cutie. I thought it was a cool way of spelling cutie. So for a while, when he first came out, I'm like, oh, you guys
Knowing
listen to
his
Kid Cutie?
music, knowing his music, like I wouldn't put it past him to have done that, but no, it's a reference to his name,
Whatever.
Cudi.
Oh, is he the best part of the movie? I really didn't enjoy him very much. I would say Mia Goth is the
I
most
would say
enjoyable
Mia
thing
Goth
about
is like authentically the best part of the movie. Scott is more just like funny, like he's having a good time. He's not given a whole lot to work with in his defense, so I don't like actually blame him for that. I just think like the little he does have to do, like he delivers. He's funny. Like he's legitimately funny, I think, in an otherwise extremely dry and boring movie. But no, Mia Goth is better. Mia Goth it really
is
steals it.
better, but
But
also like, man, I was expecting her to be like, the runaway camp queen here, but it was still like
she's
I
barely in it, surprisingly. Like shit, there's a 30-minute stretch of the movie where she's asleep.
I'm guessing that Pearl, the prequel, is really her
I've
shining moment.
been told that it's better. I don't
It
really
doesn't,
care enough to
yeah,
watch
it
it.
doesn't take much to be better. But like Martin
I
Henderson
mean,
in this movie, I thought was good. He played like I
he's
guess
all right.
the producer, her boyfriend guy.
Yeah,
I
he's all
spent the
right.
whole
He's all
time
right.
wondering where the fuck he was from, and he's from The Ring. He's the guy from The Ring. I'm like, oh man, it's good seeing you, you weirdo. They're
I
all
believe
right, but they're I looked up reviews. I tried to engage with because I really didn't like this movie. So I tried to see what people did like about the movie, and they kept
no, I
talking
did
about
the
how
same
fleshed
thing.
out the characters were. And first and foremost, these are the least fleshed out characters. Texas Chainsaw Massacre has better, more fleshed out characters than what I'm
Yeah.
looking at here.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah,
agree. I mean, I guess I would like to narrow down like because we haven't talked about it yet. We both just shared DM saying, I hate this movie, and me saying, I also hate this movie. But I don't know if there's like overlap in our reasons for hating this movie or like
well,
what
here's the
your
fun
reasons
thing.
are compared to mine.
I thought about it and I was like, I think this is a movie that's like geared towards individuals like you and I because it has fun with its 70s auteurism language, but it's
Yeah,
also trying very hard to be postmodern in a lot of ways. And I think it fails in both categories
yeah.
entirely. Like so I think that the best reading of this film, right, is um okay, so the film has a lot of themes, talks about a lot of different things. The like hyper literally the fear of age, or even the fear of hypersexuality, but like in a cool postmodern sense, I guess, which the movie could have done a bit better with, or I just don't agree with its premise at all. It keeps aligning pornography with horror films, and I think
Mhm.
it gets most interesting when I guess when we're dealing with like some of the meta qualities of the movie, where
Hmm.
the two old people are having sex, and obviously one is Pearl, one is played by Mia Goth, who is like our young scream queen from the bunch here, and
Hmm.
it's and since it's taking place in the 70s, and it's very Toby Hooper coded, it's like I think that part of it is saying that like every horror movie is kind of like not a rape fantasy, but a dirty movie because you're watching the corpse of something old being fucked over and over and over
Hmm.
again. It's just that like that metaphor for me fails because we are trapped in the 70s, and I don't understand the point
Yeah.
of a movie set in the 70s that's trying to
Yeah.
comment on films made in the 2020s that are inspired by the 70s. Like it doesn't really
Yeah.
necessarily work for me. I think that's honestly the most charitable reading I can give the film. I just think that it did basically everything that it tried to do in the most uninteresting ways, or the film like because I'm leaving out a whole part where it's talking about television. The cool thing, the film opens
Yeah.
up with like you're looking through a barn door, and the barn doors are closed to such an extent that it looks like that 4x3. It looks like
Four
your
boy. I
television
actually
screen.
thought it was, yeah, for a
And like you move
second.
forward and we come into like full view here, and we're shown the
Yeah.
television screen a lot, but this is where it gets uninteresting for me because every time we see a television screen, we're deliberately being shown like a mad preacher talking about fire and brimstone, and like the twist is that his daughter is Pearl, or his daughter is Maxine, who Mia
Mhm.
Goth plays in this movie. Like that's where I feel the metaphor falls flat because if we're engaging in conversations about like religion and like sexuality or even like polyamory at one point, or even like open relationships, or just like these are tired conversations that may have been fresh in 1979, not in 2023. So I don't understand the point of any of that. I'm unloading a lot now, but that's
Yeah.
my
I,
takeaway.
I was gonna say my reading of it is more that it's sort of the same, but more that it's the fear of aging is kind of a metaphor for uh um the act of homage itself, like
Yeah,
how it's
that's
intended to be, because the secret is that it's not actually trying to be a Toby Hooper movie at all. It's using Texas Chainsaw as its point of reference, absolutely, but it's what it's actually trying to be is a Brian De Palma movie. Because what it's trying to do is do for Texas Chainsaw what, say, Body Double does with Rear Window and Vertigo,
oh,
or
okay.
Dress to
Okay.
Kill does with Psycho, which is it's telling the story as a way to like comment on the earlier iteration. So like Dress to Kill is supposed to be like a sort of commentary on Psycho, Body Double on a Psycho, or on Rear Window and Vertigo, so to speak. But it's trying to do that. But the thing is like Ty West isn't as interesting a thinker
No.
as Brian De Palma, and it what it ends up doing is just like remaking those images. Like he's like he literally does the split screen shit. Like he's
Yeah, he does.
explicitly trying to be Brian De Palma, but he's not. There's a shot in this that on him
Because like
like very clearly evokes Carrie, but it's just like in
yeah.
service of what? It's like I don't know what the angle is here on the act of homage, or I guess nostalgia if you want, but I don't know if I'd say it's necessarily trying to come on nostalgia, just more like this idea of returning to the past, like this longing for the past, and whether it thinks that's good or bad. Like does I don't
Yeah.
know if he's like saying we should be longing for the 70s, because it's clear there's this admiration for it, for Hooper and for De Palma, and I would argue also Craven to an extent. There's some of that in here. But it's like in service of what, when like the vessel for that metaphor is this kind of sad story of like someone not being able to cope with having gotten old. And it's also weird to me because it also engages so much, at least aesthetically, with the with the aesthetics of new NU horror, like the 2020, late 2010s, 2020s, like A24 horror. It engages so much with that style that it's just like I don't know really what he's going for, and or if I
I don't
do
think
know if
that
I'm correct, I
I don't
don't
think
think
that
it's
Ty
deep.
West has a good craft at all. I think that's where I think that's where it
Yeah,
falls
I mean,
flat. And like I agree with everything you're saying, and you're putting it in like really interesting context. Like that's what I think that's what I meant by the corpse of horror gets fucked over and over again.
yeah, no, I figured that's
But
what you were getting at.
but the way
Because
you said
like,
like both have split screen and they're both like it should have been body
and
double, right? Like they
to
both
be
had
clear,
split
that's
screen,
like
but
that was like a superficial instance of it, but yes, yeah, the split screen is,
well,
I think, a direct attempt to be De Palma.
whenever it calls attention, like it's the fact that Ty West doesn't really have a craft, or he's honed a craft that's completely meaningless. Because like when I see the split screen, or when I see like those fades that come complete with the bar at the side, like or
Yeah,
that stupid editing that's like bleep 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 bleep, and then we're at the other part. Like it's like fucking annoying.
I
Like
didn't mind that, but yeah, I get what
but
you
in De
mean.
Palma's world, he can do those sorts of things that calls attention to the framework, but there's nothing really about Brian De Palma that's necessarily postmodern, whereas this film, I think, is like trying to go for that, but it wants to
Yeah,
feel like Carrie, but at the end of the day, it feels like House on Haunted Hill without even a modicum of the style that like House on Haunted Hill brought to the
yeah.
table. Um, he's just like what do you
I just don't know what like the core of this is, or like the driving like sentiment. I don't know why he said I want to make this, other
not
than
only
to say
this,
like
like, but this is the start of
yeah,
a trilogy.
yeah. Which each one references like different movies. Like the second one is supposed to reference like early Technicolor musicals and fantasy movies. It's trying the set to my understanding. I haven't seen it. I'm probably not going to, but like to my understanding, Pearl is supposed to reference like Sound of Music and Wizard of Oz and shit. And the third one, Maxine, which is already coming too late for anyone to care, is supposed to be a reference to like the 80s. Obviously, it's very unambiguous because, of course, referencing the 80s is the most inspired thing you can do in
It's
2023
just
in a genre movie. It's like that's as boring a thing as you can imagine.
if it
But
was like a
like,
true postmodern movie, it would have been awesome. Like, but the thing is, Maxine, once she became the final girl, the star of the narrative that the movie's pushing forward, she should have either relished in it or she should have been mortified by that fact.
mhm,
Maxine's a terrible character. I have no idea what I'm supposed to feel from Maxine any of the time. I will
yeah.
say, the best thing about this movie was the idea of putting Mia Goth in overalls for most of it. That was fun. That was exciting. That was cinematic tie. But like, dude, ah,
What what it comes down to me is like if he wanted to authentically, I think, do the De Palma thing, because for the record, by the way, since like we last talked about De Palma, I've become an acolyte of De Palma and I've watched like 10 of his movies. But the what separates him is like if he really wanted to authentically do the De Palma thing, it wouldn't be so obvious that he's reflecting on Texas Chainsaw because it would probably have the general plot beats and story structure of Texas Chainsaw while probably just being a completely different setting, probably a contemporary setting, probably not even in Texas. Not, it wouldn't require those things to comment on the narrative trajectory of Toby Hooper's movie because that's what De Palma does. Like, what does Body Double, like text wise, have to do with what you see in Rear Window? It doesn't, but it's the skeleton of the story is identical, and that's the point. Hello, Bella. That's the intent, and so I feel like it becomes too like superficial. Like he doesn't know what he's commenting on beyond like
no.
iconography, and it's so superficial. And also,
Like,
before I forget, this movie is
De
hideous,
Palma's it is hideous, but De Palma's kind of,
hideous.
I think his messaging is always like pretty intelligent in a large way. I mean, in
I agree.
both Body Double and X like to align their genre of film with dirty movies, with pornography. They
Yeah,
both
that I
like
should
to
have
do
mentioned
it.
that too.
But Body
Yeah,
Double, I makes a stronger parallel between like perversion and obsession and like sexual want and desire or sexual impotency for men too, like in Body Double. Like you can see that in
yeah,
both the genre, like both pornography and horror
yeah,
movies. This film, like I don't see too many parallels here between like what Ty West is showing us through pornography and what Ty West is showing us through ultra violence. They're not connected in my head. Whereas in Brian De
yeah.
Palma, it's
No,
always
I agree.
erotic and it's always horrific. This is not like when they started dropping like flies, not only did I not care about any of them, but
It
There
also
was
happens like
nothing
an hour and
connecting.
20 minutes into the movie. It's like over an hour before it actually happened.
Well, it would have been beautiful if there was some sort of connective tissue to what happened before,
Oh, there's not. You're right. It's
like
like
anything.
literally an hour of setup, but it's like
Could have
setup
seen
of
like
what?
Jenna Ortega could have been like torn inside out, like metaphorically, if, like through what she did in the film near the end of her arc.
Yeah,
Like I figured that would come back. Her boyfriend would be like mortified by that in a horrific way
yeah.
later on. Like if things could maybe mirror each other. But no, it's a film that's kind of vacant of that thought. But I feel like it's trying to make profound statements with the stupid fire and brimstone thing, with it always going back to this
Yeah.
puritanical position,
It
which I also don't understand what it's saying because those conversations are tired.
it never really acknowledges religion. I mean, like it shows those clips, but it doesn't actually like start talking about like religion until the last 10 minutes of the movie, and then all of a sudden they're acting like it was this
Yeah,
undercurrent of the movie, and like Maxine's final line of the movie is a reference to that, and it's like I don't get it. Like, is the movie trying to be about like how puritanical we are?
I
But
look
it's
at
like
that as a
it
failure,
is,
though,
but
Isabelle, that we got through the whole movie and we didn't realize that that was like the major motif of it, and that I'm supposed to care that Maxine is as a runaway
it's
from a religious home.
it's I guess what it is that like De Palma has more is more of like a culture critic and dare I say a philosopher. Like he's kind of interested in those bigger scale perspectives and like what the film like the like say you watch a movie like Carrie, the world doesn't exist outside of this town. Like that's it, you know. It's
Mm.
or like in Blowout, it's like whatever is happening. Or no, a better example is Body Double. Whatever's happening outside of that apartment doesn't matter. It's but Ty West seems like more like he thinks more like a guy who's terminally on Twitter and he wants to comment
Mm.
on like the same talking points that every like Republican or even Democrat or like people like or like public figures like Alex Jones, like you know, identity politics, sexual
Yeah.
politics. Are we too prudish? You know, stuff like that. It's like that's what he seems to be commenting on. But then that doesn't seem to make sense for his chosen format, which is the this movie that is a remake slash commentary on a previous movie.
Yeah,
And I feel like he's
like,
trying to tie that into like themes
but
about
is
like
he
what we've
articulate?
lost.
Like, let's be
No,
kind, I
I
guess.
don't
Let's
get
try to
it.
be kind. Like, what,
I
based
feel like
on
I'm being
this,
pretty kind in my assumptions about his intent already, even if I
I'm
think
just
it's kind of
imagining
stupid.
like there's got to be some fans out there. Even though I remember in that live stream we did, the best thing I read about Ty West on there was he's competent, which I would argue against at this point.
I
But like,
don't think he is.
what would
Like,
you say, like, based on this movie, like, what is Ty West saying about the horror genre or even about pornography? Either one, I'd be happy with. Like,
this is what I don't know because
yeah,
it's again like because it seems like he's trying to make these like social criticisms and about like our behaviors around sex, but then he's trying to tie that into the horror. But like the vessel for that metaphor, like let's say his idea is hypothetically that we've like in the current day like lost something of what horror was in the 70s, like that kind of purity, that freedom that a filmmaker like Hooper had when he made Texas Chainsaw. Let's say for the sake of argument that that was his belief, but like the vessel for that is the character of Pearl, the character of Pearl who is stuck in the past and can't accept getting older, aesthetics changing, which leads me to believe that maybe he's trying to comment on how we're too stuck in the past. But if that's the case, why is he so lovingly recreating this?
that's
It
the
reminds me
problem.
this there's that movie Godard Mon Amour, which is a movie by Hazanavicius, I think his name is, the guy that made The Artist.
Yeah,
He made a
Michelle
movie
Afton.
about Godard during the period where he was in a relationship with Anne Zemsky, roughly from like La Chinoise, sorry, to when they divorced. And it's one of those things where it's like you watch the movie and you're like, this dude has nothing but utter fucking contempt for this man. He despises Godard. It's not that he doesn't like Godard, he loathes Godard. But then he spends the whole movie recreating his aesthetic to a T because this is an artist who doesn't have a style of his own, and so he doesn't know how to do
Mm,
it other than to. And that's what I get from Ty West is he's like, I feel like he's like saying we're too stuck in the past. But then if you're gonna do that, then making like this multimedia marketing scheme for A24 out of your trilogy, where
yeah,
the whole thing is Mia Goth dresses as characters or styles from previous film eras, then that metaphor doesn't hold weight. Like you're just doing another 80s homage movie with
yeah.
Maxine, like everyone
And
else is.
the entire
And
cast competes over who could have the worst and most grating Southern accent possible. It's wonderful.
I just
No,
like I don't
I
get
think that the
it. It's
kindest thing I can say, like, and this couldn't have been Ty West's like approach to this movie, but if he came out and said, I made this movie to show that there was no connection between ultraviolence and pornography, because once it turns into a horror movie, like there's no connective tissue, there's no metaphorical ties tying the two together. But I mean, it's still a boring thing to say, but that would at least be like, okay, you did it, but he didn't do it. That's not what he wanted to do.
yeah, I
Um,
don't get it.
like
I don't
why?
I
Okay,
don't
why did that like why did the Jenna Ortega deciding to act in the movie and like get fucked part? Like why was that such like a big moment? In fact, I feel like her like reaching over the bed was the most actual suspensefully like framed
yeah,
part of the entire movie. Like why
yeah,
to me watching this movie do I think Ty West finds that to be the most horrific thing about this picture? Like like
yeah. It's I feel like he wants to return to this era where there's like a freedom to do be transgressive, but then like I feel like the text of the movie which delivers that metaphor argues kind of the opposite. And that's where I get lost. It's like I feel like if you were to operate just on the text of the movie, you would think that he's arguing against this, that
yeah.
it's depressing to do that. But then like on the other hand, like the style of the movie is literally him trying to be this weird amalgam of Toby Hooper, Wes Craven, and Brian De Palma, and you're like, but who's Ty West? I don't know who Ty West. I don't know what Ty West believes or wants or like evokes in his style because everything about this film is constructed from the pieces of other movies. And
Yeah.
again, not in the same way as like De Palma's work, because we can argue that like Body Double is a reference to Rear Window and Vertigo, but like it doesn't actually aesthetically feel like either of those movies because Body Double is a movie with like these extremely long extended sequences of like silence and just observation in a way that Hitchcock didn't do. He used silence and observation in a completely different
Well,
way, so they're
it's someone like
stylistically
the
posed.
problem is like De Palma, like I said earlier, he I think he beautifully connects his strands together. You know, in Body Double, the
Yeah,
pornography is tied beautifully to the voyeurism and
yeah,
the suspense of the movie, which means that he perfectly understood Vertigo. Like he understood his hero. Ty West,
yeah.
I don't know if he knows why or what the Texas Chainsaw Massacre by Toby Hooper was like
No,
talking about. You know, that's another
he has no
huge
idea.
problem here. And now I don't know if he knows why people watch pornography either. Like, I actually don't know if he understands
He,
either of the forms that he's playing with at all. He hasn't demonstrated that he
yeah.
does. Um,
I,
fucking Paul Thomas Anderson proved that he can film things more erotically than fucking Ty West ever did, like in this movie. It doesn't take a
yeah,
genius.
I I don't know. I feel like if you really wanted to, like, I don't think you could be someone that really gets Hooper unless like you're not doing this fucking multi-level
Yeah.
marketing thing for A24. It's like I feel like at that point the closer artist to Hooper is like Zoller. You
Yeah, I
know,
mean, the
because
only way that I could
it's
see this
like
movie like being the because it is liked a lot, but I think it's liked a lot because it literally has two it girls at like the top of their fame, like in the same movie, both getting in scary situations and also like people have sex, but like never actually.
the thing is well, first I was gonna say if you're gonna comment on Texas Chainsaw, you're too late because that already exists. It's called Texas Chainsaw 2. Like, and the director made it. That
Fucking
already
Michael Bay
happened.
did better commentary on Texas Chainsaw in
But
2003.
but no, I was what was I gonna say? There's not much like actual I don't know, like violent titillation. Like there's not you're not given much in the way of like violence. You're given like two scenes of like actual transgressive, like, or attempts at transgressive exploitative violence, which leads me to believe he doesn't actually understand transgression even. Like, I don't
Yeah,
think he's being transgressive here because it's all too safe, it's all too clean. I mean, like, do you really think we're going to see Scott Mescuddy's actual dick? No, it's like, like he's too clean for that. Like if he were actually
exactly.
making a movie in the style of the movies he's referencing, he would have
That's what I
actually
was
hired porn stars.
That's what I
He
was
would have,
playfully making fun of with like there's I don't even
yeah,
think he understands pornography because none of these
like
pornographic scenes are filmed with a hint of
he,
eroticism or fun
he
to
would have
them.
actually hired porn actors,
Yeah.
or
Which
at
I'm
the
not saying
very,
Kid Cudi isn't good. I'm sure
oh
Kid
no, he's
Cudi,
good.
yeah, he's fine.
I mean, his early music is good. I don't really like his recent stuff, but that's neither here nor
Oh,
there.
Kid Cudi?
Yeah,
I listen to Kid Cudi.
Cutie,
That's
Mr. Rager. Um, no,
like this
he
movie
he.
got me to be annoyed by Brittany Snow, and that's like impossible. I was so annoyed by Brittany Snow. I like her. Like it got me to hate her.
I don't know. It's just like the human behavior is just not there. I mean, like you can hate him all you want, but like Franklin, the
Yeah, yeah.
wheelchair boy, is the realest human being I've ever seen in a movie. Like that is an actual person because he's annoying as shit and pisses everyone around him off, and they all
So
just fight
are
about
people
it.
really just connecting to like Mia Goth is really good. Okay, if Ty West understands anything, it's his muse, apparently. He uses Mia Goth very well. Is it
I would say
like
A24 uses Mia Goth really well,
sure,
and
I don't know.
Ty
This
West
this
just happens to come in and collect the paycheck.
are they connecting to this delusional, like borderline stupid young girl who are they relating to some kind of morbid irony, but like kind of trashy sexiness that Mia Goth brings? So they don't even understand why people like this movie. Like I'm trying to
I mean,
figure it out.
I like I said, I think part of it for at least some people I know is that they feel like it's trying to wage this attack on how like puritanical we are about transgressive content film,
This
which I
movie
would
should have
buy
come out in
better.
1979 then. Is it saying nothing
Yeah,
transgressive at all?
yeah, I was gonna say if that were the case, I would expect it to actually be transgressive, but I think this is like borderline like TV, like cable TV
Yes.
safe. And I don't know, it's just like it's so plastic, so like clean. So while also being like completely uneventful. Also, like while we were watching it, like my partner kept pointing out, they were like, this is like weirdly misogynistic because it keeps trying to make this statement about like it's making a claim it thinks is woke that like women just want to have sex with as many men as possible and that's it and that's the key to happiness so they can live forever before they get old and ugly and die. And it's like, is that supposed to be based? Is that supposed to be a cool take? Is that supposed to be like
Well, no,
empowering?
because then it gets the opportunity. Like, like I think this movie fucking demonizes Jenna Ortega's character in both the way the scene's written, how her boyfriend responds, and then how it's filmed with her in her like Tuesday panties, like on the bed.
Yeah.
Like it's very demonizing. Am I supposed to think it's transgressive because she looks so young? Or like what am I supposed to think in that scene? Like apart from the fact that you are framing this in the only actually suspenseful way, like is it misogynistic? Yes, it makes you hate Jenna Ortega, even if you agree with her in this movie, even if you think it's
Yeah.
fine. Like, you can't
Like
not.
whoever you happen, whichever, if you happen to align with any of the four women in this movie, like any one you choose is going to end up being misogynistic somehow. Do you agree with Snow? Nope, that's misogynistic. Do you agree with Maxine? No, that's kind of misogynistic. I don't know.
It's hard to
It's
even talk about the character. Well, since I just brought up Jenna Ortega seems to be a fine actress. Sadly, I've seen her in two terrible Scream movies and now this movie, and
oh, this is the only thing I've ever seen her in.
she seems to want to be in a good horror movie really bad, and fingers crossed that'll happen one day for you, Jenna.
She
You were
deserves it,
fine
but like,
here.
like she's doing her time, but
Yeah, you were
um
really good here. In fact, you probably were the only actor who brought any sort of like
I mean, I again, I really like Mia Goth, but it's just like it's
I
like
did too, but she was a cartoon. Like I liked her, but she
she
was a
is,
cartoon. Jenna brought
and like
humanity to like one scene where she was being demonized by the script, by the story, which I thought was supposed to be kind of liberating. I mean, if you're waging an attack with transgression, then don't demonize the only then don't demonize something that's transgressive sexually in this
yeah.
then.
I was also gonna say like Mia Goth is weird in this because she is it's just kind of because she's cool or she seems cool, or is pretty or
No,
whatever,
she's
but it's
cool.
like
She's cool and pretty. Like it's that's good. It's good.
character wise though, like there isn't really anything there. It's
That's
just
what I'm
she
complaining
exists.
about because I feel like they're trying to
Yeah,
say a
I
lot
was
of
referring
like
to that.
maybe cool postmodern statements through her with or this motherfucker just watched Boogie Nights too many times and was like, I like when Mark Wahlberg says he's a star to the mirror and just has her do that through the whole
Oh my,
fucking movie. Like, but me, it like hits my postmodern trigger points of like, then what is she saying then? Then why isn't she happy then that
yeah,
she's the star of the horror movie now all of a sudden? I don't know what she wants. She wants to be, what does that even mean for her? And how am I supposed to connect that? Like, is the fact that she's on TV, does that make her a star since she's like the daughter of the, like, what is a star in this universe? What is a real movie in this universe? I don't know. What makes their movie different? Because her like pussy's different? Like they didn't even like
yeah, yeah. Shit, her pussy.
well, like I thought we'd go into what the script was because he's like, I'm making a different kind of movie, just like Burt Reynolds said in Boogie Nights all the time. And like we didn't
Yeah, it's also like they do that thing where they're the cameraman for the movie who's just a loser is like yeah,
wants to
he like
fuck the
fancies
lead.
himself.
Yeah, Jenna Ortega is Philip Seymour Hoffman confirmed. He just
He,
wants to fuck
well,
the person they're filming.
that too, but like the guy who's like filming wants to be like an artist, like an actual like film
Yes.
artist. He's like trying to do like that thing of like I guess you could say Toby Hooper making eggshells, but I would think more of like Wes Craven making something like Last House on the Left, or like Sato if you're into Japanese like pink film, like the guy who brings art, quote unquote, to like porn. Like I'm not gonna say like
Even
exploitation film. I'm not gonna say transgressive film. It's just porn, like making art out of porn. Like
yes.
that's the goal. But like it's and like they make these references to it, like these passing references to like editing, like Dennis Hopper or whatever. But it's like what
But
actually fulfills that
even
promise?
PTA even PTA in 1997 knew that the only transgressive way to end a film that much about pornography was to show a huge fake dick. Like he knew that.
Yeah. There's this stupid fucking reference to The Shining where Jenna Ortega takes an axe or whatever and hits the door and then pokes her face through the paneling and it's just The Shining and it's stupid and that's it.
Um, so viewer, you don't know this. We just took a 10-minute break. You can tell because Isabel's changed my name to Zach Bones, which I prefer. But during that time I read some like positive reviews about the movie because I was feeling like I was just bashing it a bit. But it just made me want to bash it a little bit more because I kept seeing all these reviews that were like, it's unabashed depravity and hedonism and
Not.
decadence. It's like not at all. I'm not a
It's
degenerate, guys. Like I this is
it's
movie is so tame.
it's transgression or transgressive filmmaking for people who have never watched something from the 70s.
Or a porno.
Yeah, like have you seen Last House on the Left? Or yes, have you seen any porn from the 70s? Have you ever seen Ron Jeremy's dick? I have.
And the
Like
thing that annoyed me the most was it kept I was on Letterboxd, I was reading like reviews and they kept talking about it as the same like meta self-referential quality that Scream does. And like I saw that a bunch of times. Or even that the editing was Tarantino-esque, like all these postmodern trigger words. And it's
I
like,
don't
well, what
see
does that
it.
mean then? What does that mean? Nothing,
I don't
nothing in
see
the
it.
movie.
I don't see
I
it.
can see that it's a film that's trying to comment on it, especially with it's a film that should have connected pornography to horror movies, or it should have juxtaposed them entirely and contrasted them so there's nothing in common, or it should have focused more on Maxine and like what her ideas of stardom are, or am I supposed to see Pearl, like the older version of her, or the prequel younger version of her, dancing in front of like spotlights after she kills people as like what, like a moment of stardom? But then what the fuck does that mean? And I'm doing most of the heavy analytical like lifting there. Like, what are you talking about?
A big moment for me was when the only reason I the way they introduce the theme of aging as like a major thing in the movie is by playing a Fleetwood Mac song. And it's like that's the only way they knew how to introduce the idea is through the most fucking on the nose song they could have picked for this by playing Landslide. Like that moment I was like, oh, that's what the movie's about. And it's
See,
just
if it was
nothing in
subversive, right? If it was subversive and like Mia Goth and her friends like weren't scared of the old people, if it was subversive and about how old people are terrified of young people and like how it's like the opposite fear of like old people are terrified of themselves becoming old. I know it plays on that, but it also plays on the idea that Mia Goth is terrified of this weird old lesbian woman or something. Like it's
yeah, I don't know.
you didn't find it to be unabashed in its depravity and hedonism.
No, I mean, maybe I would have if I could see the fucking movie. Unfortunately, it was too
Right.
dark, and half the movie I didn't know what I was looking. Also, like everything set during the day has the worst color grading I've ever
Mhm.
seen. Or that's dramatic, but like it's pretty bad. It's like people kept like made a big point of like I know Ty West wanted to shoot on 16 and couldn't, and so he tried to recreate it. I saw people complimenting how well he recreates the look and feel of 16. It's like no, he doesn't. It doesn't look anything like that. And also, it looks like shit. It's like everything is gray. Why are we in Texas and like it's a sunny day with the sun beating down and they're talking about how hot it is, but it looks gray. It looks like it's fall. It's like I don't get it. I don't get it. I feel like I'm on a different planet from everyone else. It's like nothing here works. I don't like it.
I
It's so
mean,
lazy.
me neither. Do you think we're being like unfair? Is there something we're reading or something
No,
that people
mostly
watch?
because I feel like I'm a pretty generous viewer generally. I don't get this uptight about it often. So
Come on,
I
we
don't
were
know.
literally here like a week ago talking about how the
Oh,
Snoop Dogg
Bone,
horror film
Jimmy
Bones was a
Bones,
masterpiece. Okay.
Jimmy Bones.
Like we are not pretentious. This is just it's not giving us much to work
You are
with.
a
So
diehard for Cherry Falls.
yeah, exactly.
If the
Okay.
town is called Cherry Falls, I wonder what the fuck the movie's about. Like that's the least subtle thing ever made.
Even in that movie,
Better
Brittany
than this.
Murphy's a cartoon, but she's also something else entirely. Mia Goth is just a cartoon here. She's pretty.
I
She's
don't think she's a
obviously this
cartoon. I
Marie.
just think she's Mia Goth.
Oh
It's just
yeah.
Mia
Well,
Goth as Mia Goth,
then Mia
playing Mia
Goth's a
Goth.
fucking cartoon. I don't know what to say there. Like, if I were to praise anyone's performance, it would only be Jenna Ortega, and it's only because she's the only one who had any actual like characterization. Honestly,
Not
like, what
Scott
am I supposed to get
Mescudi.
from Kid Cudi being like, "I was in Vietnam"? Like,
Once a
it's never.
Marine, always a Marine.
Whoa.
You
Like,
know
what am
what?
I
You know
supposed to?
what does deal with that well is when the Texas Chainsaw introduces
Yeah.
a Vietnam vet who's a fucking psychopath and carves his hand after 5 minutes and then eats people and talks about how he misses putting down cows with a fucking sledgehammer. And that's that. And meanwhile, this guy's like, what does he say? He's just like, I found tripwires in the dark at night. If she's out here, I'll find her. It's like, okay, Kid Cudi.
Oh
Okay,
no.
Mr. Rager. Like, I don't buy that. Like, why is he a superhero? Because he's a fucking Marine. It's just like the movie clearly has nothing to say about the Vietnam War, despite the wars like wars the US was involved with in during like the 20th century coming up repeatedly. It doesn't actually like integrate that in any meaningful way. You find out that Howard, the old man, was served, I think, in World War One and Two, if I believe they say that. And then whatever Jackson Hole, Scott's character plays
Right.
a Marine who is a Nam, and it's just like it's completely
I'm
irrelevant.
like even for our fun rappers and horror movies project, the fun thing about Bones and some of those other movies is, tailor-made for that rapper.
Yeah.
Kid Cudi could have been anybody. That doesn't his persona does
Not to
not
say
play
he's
into.
bad, it's just like
No, it's
yeah,
not to
I
say
agree
he's
with what you're
bad,
saying.
but even a film that tries to be transgressive really doesn't even have a lot to say about race either, like at all.
I was also thinking about like how I don't know. I guess it doesn't matter, but I was
I
gonna
think the
say like,
undertones are there, but like a truly transgressive film would have been a bit more unforgiving, I would think.
well, yeah. I mean, like if the film is the one that people say it is, which is this movie about how we've lost something in being less reactionary with our genre and exploitation movies, which fair. Like I'll accept that, and I think to a point I agree with it as someone who's like generally against reactionary art. I feel like there's something to it being involved in horror and exploitation, these low budget affairs. I mean, there's something to a movie starring Charles Bronson as a cop who just goes around killing people. And it's like something shocking and horrible and uncomfortable in that film that may or may not be intentional. I agree with that. I agree with that. But I just don't think this movie is exploitative. I don't think it is
No.
transgressive. I don't think it is uncomfortable. There's nothing in here that is disconcerting for someone, unless maybe you have like a really severe anxiety about aging. But even then, like all they had to do was show an old person who's sad, and that would have done it.
Yeah.
Like I don't think the movie is trying to make you uncomfortable, or if it is, it's failing.
Unless we
There's no,
truly live in a fucking sexless age. And like
yeah, it's like
just seeing Mia Goth's tits will just send you into hedonism and depravity, then like maybe that'd be
that's
it.
the thing is like they don't even like really show sex happening. It's like if you were
No.
really transgressive, you would have showed it unsimulated. You would have had I mean, frankly, there's a more transgressive moment in Boogie Nights, which again I'm not even a huge
Hmm.
fan of, but there's a part of
This yeah,
like
it's
the
making us
whole
say it.
fact how in like Boogie Nights where the whole point is that like oh my God, I'm having a moment. The actress, she's also in Magnolia.
Julian Moore.
Thank you, Julianne Moore, is a mother figure to Mark Wahlberg, and she's like mothering him while they're doing
Yes.
a sex scene, like you're doing
While
great,
he
honey.
comes
I'm
in
proud of
and she
you.
tells him to come inside her. Like
Yeah,
that's
while she's
pretty.
like treating him as if she's talking to her son, and that's like one of the most like uncomfortable things I've ever seen. And it's like that's a fucking Mark Wahlberg movie by Paul Thomas Anderson, who's like the most like generically popular director alive
When he
right
was
now.
like
It's like
23 or something. Like yeah.
yeah, and it's just like that's a more legitimately probably uncomfortable moment for the average
Hmm.
viewer than anything in X. Like there's nothing about
Yeah.
even if we want to zero in just on the sex, what about the sex here is uncomfortable for the average viewer?
Well, they
Nothing.
pussied out, and like the Jenna Ortega thing could have been uncomfortable for certain members of the audience, and we fade to black.
Yep. You see a vagina in The Shining. Like
Yeah,
you see an old
like
woman's
God,
vagina in The Shining,
you
and
could
like
still
that's
do it in your
actually
nice way, Ty West, but I think that for like uncomfortable like dudes in the audience seeing her Jenna Ortega's boyfriend watching Jenna Ortega get railed in a porn movie would have been transgressive a little. You can film it in your own way, which is, in slow-mo with a soft piano and in the background if you want. But
look,
like
partner kept saying it's like why is Maxine so bad at faking faking sex? Like she's
but we're
not
supposed to think that she's like next
she's like
level
the
though.
go like she's got the X factor. It's just like no, I think Brittany Snow was better. Like I bought her more. She was a better porn actress. I believed it better.
I have no idea. Like I'm being so harsh on the movie because nothing connects.
I I
Nothing connects,
really
period.
I really went in like optimistic that they were. I mean, well, I shouldn't say that. Like, I had my doubts based on everything I'd heard. I was like, wow, that sounds kind of cheesy and tacky, everything people said about it. And sure enough, it was. But I actually went in like, I went in thinking like, I'm probably gonna end up liking this. I always do, or I'm gonna end up having like some like positive takeaway or something. But honestly, I was just bored.
Yeah.
We were both bored. We were kind of just waiting for it to end, and it
You know what a
ended
movie
fully
about
bored.
pornographers shouldn't be? Is
Boring.
boring.
Yeah, dry.
Dry.
The ironically though, like the best parts, I think, the most watchable parts are the staged sex scenes, like for the staged porn shoot scenes,
I
because at
think that
least there's fucking
uh,
color grading.
the most
Like,
watchable parts for me is when Ty West is alone with Mia Goth and she's like floating in the lake or like walking down like in her overalls and
maybe
stuff.
I didn't even like that. I
But
really
I feel like
didn't.
that's Ty.
Doing what he
I don't.
really wants to do or does best,
Yes,
maybe.
yes. Because he clearly doesn't want to film sex scenes. He doesn't want to do that. He hardly wants to film
Are
like kills. He
I
doesn't want to
don't
film horror either.
I don't believe that because he actually, for the physical release, cut together all the porn scenes they shot to actually release The Farmer's Daughter, and it's like an extra. It's like a 6 minute porn film they put on the DVD release or some shit. And it's like, so I'm like, okay, on the one hand, you successfully released the Jenna Ortega and Mia Goth porn film starring Scott Mescudi, but also it's just like it's just fake sex. It's not real.
Hmm.
So it's like, who's gonna sit down and be like, I can't wait to watch this double feature while the wife's out? You know, it's like,
I don't know,
who's
fucking
doing that?
12-year-olds.
Yeah,
You get more
12-year.
transgression from any Eli Roth movie, so like I don't understand
Oh
them.
my God, you if you want to get into it, yeah, like you like Green Inferno, like that is a good movie
And a
considering
good
it like
statement on reactionary like art.
politics. Yeah, because it's a movie because by as far as I'm aware, like Eli is a pretty left-leaning dude, but like Green Inferno is great because it introduces a bunch of like liberals and then has them eaten by the natives.
Well, that's the thing. Like I don't even know what Ty West. I don't know what he thinks about porn. I don't know what he thinks about horror. I don't know what he thinks about age. I don't know what he thinks about politics. I don't know anything about him from this movie except that he thinks that Mia Goth and Jenna Ortega are pretty. Like that's all I know that he thinks.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I wish I could know more about him, but like
I don't think there's anything under the hood there.
but it feels like it's a film that thinks that it does. So I'm trying to like put myself in Ty's shoes here. Like I'm trying to think of what he thinks like he's saying. Maybe he's just saying the most boring shit ever, you know? Maybe it is just this maybe he is just making a comment on fucking Puritanism and new and
I
emerging
do
sexualities. Like that's it.
I do think that's what he thought the movie was about and how he tried to tie it into this broader metaphor about like our relationship to older art. I just don't think it's coherent.
And like
Like sincerely, I don't think it's coherent. Or if it is coherent, what it's saying is not profound.
the kids are being punished by old people because they have like repressed and unlived sexual fantasies or whatever. Like that's what he thinks
I
he's
it
doing.
I just if I understand him correctly, I don't think it's profound. And if I understand him correctly, it's already incoherent. So I don't think he's a smart filmmaker, at least based on this. That's not fair to judge. Like
Well,
he's
I don't want
released
to hear
quite a lot of
shit
movies,
about
but
how hard it is to get funding for a movie when this motherfucker gets to make a trilogy based off of X. Come
that's what
on.
I'm saying. Like I feel like that invalidates the context because he said, and I thought this was asinine as hell, but like he said it in some interview, he was like, it's a reference to that era of horror movies, so of course it has to have a bunch of sequels. I'm like, oh fuck you, fuck you.
Oh
Oh
my
my
God.
God, are you 12? Oh my God, like
He might
fuck
actually be.
off, fuck off, like that is so. It's it's so stupid. It's just like it's the same energy. This is such a random reference. That fucking fake Euro dance music video that was popular over the summer
Yeah.
on Twitter, and how he's like, yeah, I cast a different woman in each version of the music video because they would always uh replace the women members of their music groups. I'm like, that didn't happen. You're just making that up. That's literally not true. And but like in this,
That's
like
exactly how I feel watching X, actually. Like, no, no, this doesn't make any sense.
you're just
This
making
doesn't
shit
happen.
up.
You're just
You're
making
just
shit
making
up
shit up.
in both pornography and
Like
horror movies and religion.
Texas Chainsaw didn't get a sequel for 12 years, and when it happened, it was by the same dude, and it was a parody. And
Unless he's
I don't.
talking about porn. So be like all the
Then it's like,
sequels.
yeah, okay, I believe The Farmer's Daughter 7 happened, but like, who fucking cares? It probably doesn't exist anymore.
I
Lost
don't, based
media
on
has
how I saw them film The Farmer's Daughter once. A lot to it.
it. Oh
I
my
want to
God,
watch the same guy
what
fuck
do you
and
think is on that camera? Some goddamn fucked up horror movie.
well, they couldn't even tell us like I remember Martin
That was
Henderson's
the
character
worst.
went and like watched like the reel and went, that's some art right there. But we couldn't see the art. We weren't allowed to
Yeah,
see the art
no,
because
the
Ty West
final line
didn't
of the
know what it
movie,
was.
the final line of the movie where the sheriff is like, some goddamn fucked up shit. And it's like, nope, sorry, I was there. Nothing really fucked up happened.
My eyes rolled so far into the back of
Oh
my head,
my
I didn't
God.
even notice the end credits came.
Like, oh my God, that was like, he really thinks he did it. Like, he really thinks he said something there. Like,
You really think he
or
made
that
a
he was
fucked up,
trapped in.
dirty movie?
He really thinks that, and he didn't.
Even
He
like the
really
slightly
didn't.
subversive qualities that can be found in it were subversive in either 1979 or 1990. Like,
Not even like, remember how fucked up Last House on the Left is? Like,
yeah,
now that's fucked up in a way that Ty West cannot comprehend.
every conversation, every piece of dialogue that this film tries to open up with its audience or with culture, to me is just so tired, so passe, beyond passe that like I had to think he was joking a lot of the times that like religion or like the idea of your girlfriend getting fucked by someone else. I had to be like, are you joking sometimes? Like this is so beyond common.
He lives in like 2005. He is he's unaware that a movie like Knock Knock by Eli Roth even happens. Like, at least that's a movie coherently about like Eli Roth's vision of whatever cancel culture is. It's like, this is completely, it's not reactionary enough. We need, like, if Ty West really wanted to make a reactionary movie, he would have adapted Death Wish before Eli Roth did. He would have made the movie about an old white guy shooting up criminals like first, but he did it, you know.
But old, oh yeah, the most graphic sex we saw in here was old people, prosthetic sex. That's it. That's really it.
Between two people who aren't actually old.
Yeah,
What one of
they're in
the
old face.
Howard is 65, I guess. So he's 65, but he was in makeup to look older. Um, it's the dude, he's in all the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movies as like the one orc with the really pointy face and like the rat-like face or
Guy
whatever.
has a heart attack later. It's like I have to think he's joking so many times. So like, is
Like,
he even saying anything by the fact that the old man didn't have a heart attack while fucking his old wife, but had a heart attack
oh
later
my
at
God,
like,
I was cackling every time he's like, you know, I can't fuck you, darling. I'll have a heart attack in town.
but is this just a joke? Is everything just a joke? Does he hate porn and 70s movies?
I don't think he's ever thought in his life. This is the one time where I don't feel bad if the director sees this video and says, "Oh my God, you said so many mean things about me."
The
Last
shit
time I
tends
felt
to
bad,
happen.
this time I don't feel bad.
I'll feel bad if he sends Mia Goth after us.
We don't, I'm not afraid of Mia Goth. She kept going like, yeah, God, like,
I ain't afraid of Mia Goth.
I ain't afraid of Mia Goth. I guess I should be. She has somehow survived Shia LaBeouf twice, but
Mm.
that's neither here nor there.
Jenna Ortega
No,
survived the Disney Channel.
barely.
Barely.
Uh, yeah, but no, this
All right.
was idiotic.
Final thoughts on X.
It's ugly. It's so ugly to look at. It's idiotic. It's a movie for dumb babies.
Did not hear that.
Oh, I said it's a movie for dumb, stupid babies.